not about cold wind. I do have a hoodie on, but still, with it being windy, I don't want to read in the wind because they'll make all the pages turn. Hey guys, welcome to a new vlog. This is going to be the Buddy Read vlog, but I haven't started that book yet because I'm behind with my reading. Sorry, I was fixing the light thing, so if you saw my double chin, good for you. But let's talk about the weekly TBR, starting out with our weekly quote. With the way this is written, it took me a few times to see what it was saying. So, all things great, see, but it's all great things are wound up with all things, or with all little things, or all things little, by Ella Montgomery. I'm not really, like, I had a hard time trying to word this all together, but this is like one of my mottos in life. Is all these little moments get us to where we are. And I think with the book I'm currently reading, it showcases that perfectly, that all the little things in life add up to those big moments in life. And the little things, the grass, the plants, the air, they're all essential to the life that we are living. That's the weekly quote. The first book that I read when I work out is this big beast, and that is Donlan Voices, an anthology of indigenous writing from New England. And this is from the University of Nebraska Press. And so this is so far very much an educational book. But when the woman who put this together was putting it together, because when you would go to the quote American Indian section of bookstores, it would mainly be stories from the plains, the Southwest, and you would never see authors from the Northeast. And so the author was like, well, that's lacking, so I'm going to do something about it, and put this collection together, and would go and interview people in these indigenous communities in the Northeast and get their stories out there. And I think that is so important, that the author saw something that was lacking and actually went out and did something about it. And now all those people's stories and legends and myths and everything are being told to the masses. And I think that's incredible. So that's what I'm reading in the morning time. And then this book, I'm not going to update y'all a lot on this book. I'm going to try to finish it today, but it was just a weekend read for me, and I really wish I could have finished it over the weekend. But I was in Georgetown on Friday, and yes, I had a great time, but it also put me behind with my February reading, and I feel angry right now talking about it. But at the same time, I did have a really good time with what I was doing. It's just kind of frustrating, I guess, that maybe if I'd left earlier in the day, but that's not up to me, and I don't need to be upset about it. And honestly, by the end of the week, I'm going to forget about that. But what I'm reading is Challenger, A True Disaster of Heroism and Disaster on the Edge of Space by Adam Higginbotham. And this is a narrative nonfiction book about the Challenger disaster. We don't know, that was a space shuttle, so a spaceship carrying astronauts that blew up on takeoff, like it got into air. Stuff went wrong. I'm not exactly sure yet what went wrong. I'm on the day of now in the book, because we have like 3 parts, and I've been trying to read a part a day. So again, I'm going to try to finish this today, and I am enjoying this and learning a lot. No, my favorite thing that I'm reading right now, and is the best book I've read so far this year, is The Sunshine Girls by Molly Fader. This is my mood read. I read it before I go to bed, and this is these 2 girls. Their mother passes away, and they are having the funeral, and a movie star shows up at the funeral, and they're like, how do you know our mom? And she's like, I went to school with your mom. Your mom is my best friend, or was my best friend. And it's uncovering this hidden life that their mother had. And lastly, my ebook is Go Tell the Bees That I'm Going by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 9th and most recent book in the Outlander series, following a family around the time of the American Revolution with time travel elements involved, but this is very much a genre bending series. I don't have any major updates, but I did want to, update the vlog. With my books today, with Donlan Voices, I read 10 pages, and that was like the creation story of these Mamakai. They're from like Eastern Canada, but some live in Maine and in the Northeast, because there is better jobs and education in the United States rather than where they are from in Canada. And something I found interesting is there were seven levels of creation. Like, with like the biblical, I know there's 6 days and then on the seventh day God rested or whatever. I think that's how it went. So I think it's interesting that there's 7 in their creation story as well. And then in Challenger, I got to 84 or 85%. I should be finishing that tomorrow, and the disaster has happened, and now we are seeing fingers being pointed at everybody. Why did this happen? How can we prevent it from happening again? And I just got to page 250 in The Sunshine Girls. Yes, I wrote the spine because I'm loving this book, and if I'm loving a book, I want it to look well loved. We are really dealing with like the Hollywood, the glitz and glamour part of the story. And is Hollywood really glamorous? You know, everything in life is subjective, let me tell you. Everything is. So I read 10 in Dawnland Voices. In Challenger, I read 104 pages. And in The Sunshine Girls, I read 15 pages today. After my bath, I will go Tell the Bees that I'm going. I don't know if I'm going to read a whole chapter or maybe just a little snippet, because I think the chapter that I'm starting today is on the longer side, lengthier side. So we're just going to go do all that, take off all this makeup. But I had like a really good like makeup and hair day for my first makeup day of the spring. Really loving how my makeup turned out. I wasn't sure about my outfit at first, since the sweater is kind of baggy and then these are like flared pants. But I do think it looked cute when I saw my reflection in the car when I was leaving Petco. I was like, I do look cute. And my hair, I did like beach waves today and I liked it. I like how it turned out. And yeah, so that's all for the updates from me. Tuesday, I'm gonna sit down. I'm just putting my book up there. But I did get some book mail today and I wanted to show it to y'all. These were 2 pre-orders that I ordered a while back. I don't know when, but they're both nonfiction. One's history and one I guess is more science, nature, memoir, it says. But the first one is, that noise is so strange, but okay, is The Invention of Prehistory, Empire, Violence, and Our Obsession with Human Origins by Stefanos Geroulos. Don't know, that name seems really familiar, like that's a YouTuber, but I don't think he is. He's a professor of history at NYU, but yeah, prehistory, I love it. And it's like, why are we so obsessed with human origins? And this is something I've always wondered. I think I talked about a few weeks ago that when I was in high school, a lot, y'all know I went to Christian school, there was always that debate, or like people would watch debates of evolution versus the creation story from Christianity, blah, blah, blah. And I always wonder, I'm like, why does it matter so much? We just need to be happy that we're here. I don't really care where we came from. And that's not necessarily true. Like, I don't care, like, again, I don't want to say I don't care, but it's not a huge fascination of what made a human, if we evolved from cells or if we were made from dust and all, how God created us. I don't really, that doesn't really intrigue me. I am interested to see how society developed and how civilization developed, rather than just how the biological of how a human was made. That isn't something that really fascinates me. Y'all know I'm not really a science person, I'm more of a history person. And the thing of why does prehistory fascinate me, that's where we started, and there's just something almost mythical about it. I talk about it, or have talked about it with friends and all, because like the show Romulus, which is an Italian show about the founding of Rome, and there are like these rituals of like where these guys get like sent off. There's an official like Roman or Latin name for it, but that they get sent off into the woods, and apparently when they come back they'll be a man. But they're like, they don't like to go out at night, and I think that's even, it's instinct of like why humans, like why in the present day we're scared of the dark. I mean, I know not everybody is, but you know, it's just kind of creepy when something's in the dark. Like, I don't want to read scary stuff in the dark. I would rather save it to read during the day. So it's, but they're scared at night because they hear like wolves howling, but they think it's spirits and all of that. And it's because we didn't have all the science and development that we have today. So there was still so much mystery in the world. And I just think that's so interesting. And again, it feels so close to magic. That's another thing, that they believe in all this kinds of magic because they don't know the science and everything that we have today. But that this has been out, but when I saw there was a paperback option, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna want. And then I saw you had to pre-order it, so I pre-ordered it. And then this one is a hardback, which I thought it was already out, so maybe just coming out in America or something. But Raising Hair, this is a memoir by Chloe Dalton. It says, a moving and fascinating meditation on, oh, I love the end page, but on freedom, trust, loss, and our relationship with the natural world, explored through the story of one woman's unlikely friendship with a wild hare. And this is what I was saying with the end pages. I love that. It's so just, you know, cottage core. But I love stories about animals. They're only so moving, or at least I always hope that they're going to be moving. We got the English countryside, which I always tell y'all, when I went to England and was just on the train going throughout the country, or on the bus or whatever, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many stories that can be told here and have been told here, and it just gave me so much inspiration. So we got some nonfiction. I have one chapter left in Challenger and then the epilogue, so we'll be finishing that during my next reading sprint, which will be in about an hour here, a little less than an hour, like 40 minutes here. Really, the whole time filming that, I had this green thing on my lip, like a string. I don't know where this came from, so just know that's what that was. It's like a string off of something. Like, I'm not wearing green. I don't know what this came off of. I'm sorry if I looked absolutely disgusting, but I'm not going to edit those clips or anything because I talked and I liked what I had to say. I finished Challenger. Yes, the physical book is right here, but I'm just gonna hold up the desk jacket because that's easier. And I'm giving it a 3.75, so I did enjoy this book and I would recommend that you pick it up. Now let's go into my thoughts. I haven't written my review yet or anything. I just finished the book, so I might be a little bit scatterbrained on thoughts, and thoughts might change, but this is right after finishing what my thoughts are. So this is a story of determination, and I would say even a story of diversity, as we are just seeing these people who a lot of odds could have been stacked against them, but they were determined and had a dream, and they kept pushing and did their best and got to be astronauts. And it's just incredible that if you put your mind to something, that's what I was looking to say, if you put your mind to something, you can do it. Anything is possible. And this is let's talk about how we have these 7 astronauts, and I only knew 2 of them because one is from my same county, and the teacher, y'all all know about that. So I knew them. I'm not going to say their names because, like, spoiler, I think you would really enjoy this if you know nothing about the Challenger and going into it. But okay, so I only knew 2 of the astronauts. I didn't even know how many astronauts go on a mission. No idea until I picked this book up, but it's 7. So I had no idea who was going to be on this ship, who wasn't going to be on it. And it's just like, you like these people so much. I've heard, obviously, some of these names my whole life, but I didn't really know who they were as people. I just knew they were astronauts on the Challenger, and it was an awful disaster, the space shuttle blowing up. And this, you're really getting to know who they are as people, really humanizing these figures, humanizing this event in American history. And that makes it an emotionally impactful read as you're getting to know those people as they are preparing for this mission. And before I forget, I do think this would make a great mini-series. I get a lot of like Top Gun Maverick vibes from this because you're seeing them all prepare, how they bond as a team and all of that leading up to this mission. So I do think this would make a pretty good mini-series. But you're getting to know these people and you're knowing what's going to happen. You know that this, even the first, the prologue, we know this spaceship is going to blow up, but we don't know, or at least I didn't know who was going to be on the ship or anything, but you're seeing all these great stories of these people and being like, oh my gosh, something awful is going to happen to them. But once we get to that event, I didn't really feel that much. I was just like, yep, that happened. That's really bad. I hate that that happened, but I didn't like cry or anything like that, which, I mean, that's probably not intended by the author to make you cry or anything. I can definitely see this book making people cry though, but it didn't pull those emotional strings to me. Like, I did feel that emotional connection when we are getting to know these characters, you know, getting to know these people, and as they're preparing for this mission, because I know what's going to happen to them, that had me emotional. But when the tragedy itself happened, I didn't feel anything towards it. But this is nonfiction. Is it supposed to make you feel something? I don't know. But this is narrative nonfiction as well, which I just discovered that term like in 2024. And if you are somebody like new to nonfiction, or is somebody who reads majority fiction, it can just really make the story really gripping for you. And it definitely did feel like a thriller, all that lead up to the event, and just knowing that something awful is going to happen. And it did read like a thriller, has you on the edge of the seat. You never know what's going to happen. That's why I think this would be really fantastic if you know nothing about the Challenger incident. Fred, knocking down that. I know people are thinking that's funny. People, it's not funny to me because it got off my train of thoughts. But yes, I'd recommend, if you don't know anything about the Challenger, to just go into this not knowing anything, because I think you're going to be a lot more shocked and have a lot more of emotions than I did while reading this. Now, why is this not a new favorite book? A lot of those chapters about like the mechanics and engineering behind it did go over my head, and they kind of lost me a bit, and we would have whole, you know, 20-page chapters of that, and I'd just be like, okay, I don't understand anything about this. But I did learn a lot, and the lesson that I always tell y'all, and very reminiscent of our quote of the week, all those little things in life, little mistakes, and putting things, okay, we're gonna start with the little things. All the little things in life add up and make a big event. And as I was just saying, with the mistakes, you might just band-aid it, put a band-aid on it for a little bit, but don't actually go into fixing that problem. That will eventually all bottle up and literally. And that's why you need to deal with things in the moment. You don't need to procrastinate and put things off. This is not a self-help book, but I think if you're reading about all these little things that happen along the way, that they all got put into a bottle and put aside, obviously led to something awful happening. And I will, with my Goodreads review and my reviews that are posted online, I will leave a link to all the notes that I took while reading this book. That's something I do with my nonfiction, is maybe not with all of them, but I type up my notes to put it online so you guys can read my notes and what my thoughts were while reading the book. But that's the review for that. I am going to, I'm not going to start my next read yet. That will be the buddy read, the main focus of this vlog, where y'all are going to begin updates throughout my time reading it. They will be annotated, so I do need to get my tabs out of here. Let me get those right here. Here are nice little tabs. I thought, okay, I do have, I had some up here already. Never mind, throw those old ones in there. Throw the new ones back in the drawer. But I will, after I do my review and take my pictures and everything, I will come back and read the description of the book that we're starting tomorrow. I did all the bookish things. I'm not going to be able to start this book tonight just because, you know, I don't have time to do that, and I want to, you know, really be invested in what I'm reading. So I will be starting this book at 3 p.m. tomorrow, and I know the sticker's like right on there. I mean, I got a deal, so who cares? But this is The Little Liar by Mitch Albom, and this is the buddy read book club pick, you know, the Raindrops book club pick of the month that was voted on by members of the club. And I will say I did vote for this book, and I'm really happy that it won. But let me tell y'all what this is about. When did I buy this book, actually, since my receipt's in here? It was last year, I know, because I discovered it on TikTok, and I got TikTok last year. On May 29th, 2024 at 4:20 p.m. and I paid $18.89 for it. Let's see now what this is all about. 11-year-old Nico Crispus has never told a lie. When the Nazis invade his home in Salonika, I'm going to be doing the audiobook, so I will get the pronunciation, but Greece. The trustworthy boy is discovered by a German officer who offers him a chance to save his family. All Nico has to do is persuade his fellow Jewish residents to board trains heading north, where new jobs and safety await. Unaware that this is a cruel ruse, the innocent boy reassures passengers on the station platform every day. But when the final train is loaded, Nico sees his family being herded into a boxcar. Only then does he discover that he has helped send them and everyone he knows and loves to their doom at Auschwitz. Nico escapes, but he never tells the truth again. The Little Liar, Mitch Albom examines the human repercussions of deception by interweaving stories of Nico, who becomes a pathological liar, his older brother Sebastian, who vows revenge against him, Fanny, the girl who must choose between them, and Udo Graf, the Nazi officer who changed their lives with his lies. Through the war years, the concentration camps, and the decades that follow, Albom reveals the consequences of each person's honesty and dishonesty, bringing them back to where it all started in a staggering climax worthy of the best of Albom's internationally embraced stories. The Little Liar is Mitch Albom at his very best, narrated by the voice of truth itself. I didn't realize that. It is a timeless tale of the harm we inflict with our deceits and the power of love to inspire forgiveness and ultimately to redeem us. Doesn't that sound like such a powerful and impactful read? And also it's very matching. But that sounds incredible, and it kind of reminds me of The Book Thief, being a child during World War II and being told by something greater than all of us. In The Book Thief it's death, in this it's truth. There's both in with THs. Is that intentional? Who knows? But this sounds so impactful, and the audiobook is narrated by the author himself, and that's the format that I'm going to be reading this book. And oh my gosh, like I feel emotional just reading the description of the book. When I hauled this book back in that vlog in May, my jaw dropped when I was telling y'all what it was about, and it still just amazes me. So I will be starting this tomorrow, and we will have to see what I think. Hey guys, happy Wednesday. I was just out in the rain. Yeah, I have raindrops in my glasses still, so it's kind of blurry, but it is. I included some clips at the start of the vlog. I went to fix the garden flag. I was taking her cycles out and getting them out, but when I came back, I was fixing like the little garden flag, and I had rain boots on, but the water was really like ankle deep. It was crazy. And this is supposed to be severe weather. There's like a tornado watch, but I mean, it didn't seem that windy when I was out there. It just seems to be rain, and it's like a warm rain too. I mean, I am kind of cold now that I'm inside, but I think it's in the 70s here. And y'all know I love a nice warm rain, but I think there were some tornadoes in parts of the state, so that's obviously not good. I hope that it was like really minimal damage, if there was any damage. But I did get my book of the month package today, and I want to show y'all what I got. Like the moment, he did great of where he put it. Like it was so close to like maybe like a 5-inch difference of where the rain was hitting the porch, and it was in the clear. So like shout out to him. He's been my mailman for a while now. But okay, the first book we have here is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey, and I love this cover. But I read Migrations by this author last year and loved it, and I have her other book about wolves, like they were integrating wolves back into Scotland, and so I haven't read that. I own like all her books now. And there are these people, this guy who is like the caretaker of a tiny island not far from Antarctica with his 3 children, and one day this woman washes up on the beach there, and mind you, they're near Antarctica, so she has secrets. The family that are the caretakers, they have secrets. Everybody has secrets, and I think that's a common theme with her books. There's always like some kind of like nature as really like climate. Like, because the wolves one, you know, that was because wolves have gone extinct in Scotland, so introducing them back. In Migrations, we're following the last migrations of these birds before they go extinct. And this one, we are, like, on an island near Antarctica, and I think it's, like, scientists and all. So there just seems to be that theme of science and nature, but also of a mystery of the characters having secret hidden past. But that is, not Migrations, Wild Dark Shore. the next one. So this is the package of the book, sorry for it, the book of the year package. And I have the book that won the award, which we'll talk about who was nominated and all of that. So there were two of the books that I didn't own that were nominated. And since I am a best friend, that means I've had a subscription for over a year at Book of the Month. I've had it for way over a year, but if you've been a member there for that long, you get the Book of the Year book for free. And so they let you get one of the nominees for free. And this is the one that I chose because, as I said, I owned all of them but two. It was this one that is a historical fiction and by an author I've read from before. And the other, your nose is cold, but the other was a romantasy book and all of that, which that's not really my jam. So this is the one that I ended up getting, and that is The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. And this is the one who wrote The Stationery Shop, which I thought was a good book, and I do think it will be better on reread for me. Sir, can you get your towel out the frame? Okay, there we go. And with the Book of the Year books, they have Lolly, which is the award that you get if you are the Book of the Year. And this was a finalist in 2024. This is a heartfelt epic new novel of friendship, betrayal, and redemption set against the three transformative decades in Tehran, Iran. And so that's that one. And then this one, it was, I don't remember what month it was a Book of the Month pick, but I think probably last month or the month before. And I saw that it just has a lot of like 2000s nostalgia, maybe not 2000s, but we'll read the blurb in a minute. So it's We Could Be Rats by Emily Alston. And look at this. Y'all know they're my biggest fear, but I thought that was kind of cute on the back of the book. And this one, oh, I love the colors. Like, the colors do really remind me of childhood. It says, a moving story about two very different sisters and a love letter to childhood, growing up, and the power of imagination. And I love all of those things and all of those themes. That's why I picked it up. And do I have, yeah, I think I own Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, but I haven't read it. And I didn't realize Emily Austin's Canadian, so that's kind of cool. And lastly, this was an add-on last month, but I didn't get it. But this is a romance book about people in their, I think, 40s. And I think that's just something different and unique because oftentimes it's about people in their 20s, romances. And this is It's Getting Hot in Here by Jane Costello. And this is the back of this one. And it, okay, it doesn't really have the little, oh, this is English. She lives in Liverpool. But okay. Lisa Darling, a high-powered TV executive and twice divorced mother of two, is navigating life with an opinionated teenager and a pet-obsessed grade schooler, organizing PTA events and supporting her best friend through breast cancer treatment. It's no wonder her to-do list is on overdrive, and she never has time for Pilates or the DIY interior design project. When LA-based media hotshot Zach Russo swoops in as a stand-in for her best friend's job, Lisa starts feeling overheated and flustered. She's convinced her hormone replacement therapy needs some adjusting, until she finds herself in a sexy and seriously ill-advised cinch with him. As things snowball, Lisa has to ask herself what she really wants. It's Getting Hot in Here is delightfully swoon-worthy rom-com meets mom-com readers have been waiting for. So I thought that was cute that it's, you know, about older people, and because you can find romance at any age. Now, this is the thing that came for the Book of the Year. These were the books that were nominated. So The God of the Woods, The Lion Women of Tehran, Phantasma, The Wedding People, and The Women. I'm shocked The Women didn't win because Christian Hannah has won before with 4 wins. Yes, I still have this. I've read 4 of these books that were nominated in 2021, and I own The Lost Apothecary, and I really need to get to that because it's been recommended to me so many times. But yes, I still own that. Still have that little paper. But The God of the Woods is what won, which I think that cover is super cool, that gold and all. I don't know if you get it, if it's actually like that, but I already own the book, so I didn't get that one. Then we have our Book of the Month bookmark, and it's not a dirty saying this one, that says Don't Leave Me in Here, submitted by Megan C. from Lexington, Indiana, a member since 2019. So she got there around the same time I did. But those are the books. I want to show you that. We will be starting The Little Liar in about 3 hours at 3 o'clock. I do need to get into Donlin Voices, and that is all that I have to tell y'all in this update. We do go to Target later, which should be fun. It is time to do our nightly update. And I did go to Target, but I didn't buy anything book related, so that's why I don't have a Target time in this video. But I am here to talk about The Little Liar. I got to, I think it was 36% according to Goodreads, and I am following along with the audiobook. Don't know if I said that in this video because I've talked about this book in a lot of different places. I read 106 pages, as I said, and that was like 36%. And we are going to go through my notes from the book. Now this does have deckled edges, so you can't see my tabs that well, but there are quite a few tabs in here. I don't know what I would rate this book at the moment. I would say like a 4-star. It hasn't hit a 5-star quality for me. And let me tell you what's happening. What is on the blurb or the description of the book is exactly what's happened in part 1 of the book. We are seeing the Nazis take over Greece, and the Jewish people being sent to ghettos and being sent to Auschwitz, and Nico being taken under the arms, I think that might not be the right term, of Udo Graf, who is a German soldier. I don't know exactly what the American equivalent of what he is would be, but he's like high up in the military. We see all that now. Obviously there's going to be little details of like how did all this come to be that you're not going to get on the description of the book, but it's basically exactly that description is what happens in part 1 of the book. And I think that's why I didn't feel a huge shock. So for my book club people, did y'all read the description before reading the book? It didn't seem like it, in my opinion, from reading y'all's messages in the book club, because they were like a lot more shocked by things that were happening than I was shocked by. But I don't know. I'm super curious because I just was not that shocked and didn't feel as much because I knew it was going to happen because it was in the description of the book. But now I am past that. I have started part 2 of the book, and it's like, okay, what are going to be the circumstances, like what's going to be the outcome of all of that I mentioned, these people being sent away to Auschwitz, of Nico now living that life up. He's on his own now because I told y'all his family got sent away, and how does he deal with what he has done? And we have a war to fight. It's World War II. Let's go through the tabs now. Now, my tabs do not mean anything, but the color of the pen is what means anything, which y'all won't be seeing that, but just to let y'all know. And this is something I wondered when I read the description, literally on page 1, is, you know, none of these people are really questioning, or makes it seem like none of these people are questioning getting on these trains that are cattle cars that are sending these people to Auschwitz. And so, you know, there's no seats to go to the bathroom. It's literally a bucket in the corner. And I'm like, nobody was questioning that. They didn't think that was kind of odd, but we do have, I wouldn't necessarily say question, but you know, they do make comment of that on the first page. And so as you all know, truth is what is telling this story. The first paragraph of this section here. You can trust the story you are about to hear. You can trust it because I am telling it to you. I am the only thing in this world you can trust. And for me, I was like, yeah, that's death. It's inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. But I was like, wait. This is told from the point of view of truth. And it really makes you think when you read all of this paragraph about how things are fickle and nature, humanity, and all of that. It's ever changing, but the truth is the truth. It's always going to be that. And it might be making gears move in my head here. And then we do have the title said for the first time, and y'all know I always have to make note of that. And so Salanka, that's not how you say it, is it? Where our story's taking place, I'm gonna have to really like listen to that word like 3 times in a row to be able to pronounce it. But it's Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki, that's so wrong, is a city by the Aegean Sea that dates back to 300 BCE. So I had seen that Thessa word, and that is the same city that we are in now. And so I have heard of that. And let's see our next tabs. When we finish this story, you may say, this was impossible. But here's the funny thing about truth. The less real something seems, the more people want to believe it. And we see that they're talking about like physical features of people and all that of our characters. And it's like, so truth claims no credit for a person's physical features, but truth will enhance that. And I'm like, if you think about it, the stress from telling all these lies and having to keep up with lies and everything, that's going to take a toll on your body. And so I do think that's what truth was trying to say there. Our city, Salongna or wherever, prior to the war was the only city in Europe with a Jewish majority population. I did not know that. I would have guessed it was somewhere like Ukraine, Germany, Poland, somewhere like Central Europe. That's where I would have guessed. I would have never guessed Greece. And they speak a language that's like a mix of like Spanish, and I'm really curious of Greece is on the other side of Europe from Spain, and I'm curious of why this city was a majority Jewish city. And I know nothing about Greece other than the ancient stuff, you know, from thousands of years ago. I don't know any of its more modern history, but I am learning. And as I talk about historical fiction and why it's important to read, I think this is great. So they're at a wedding, and so the bride, you know, had a veil. Why did you wear that thing over your face? Nico asks. It's called a veil, his grandfather interjects. And she wore it because her mother wore one, and her mother's mother wore one, and all the women going back to the ancient days wore one. When we do something today they did thousands of years ago, do you know what that makes us, Nico? Old, the boy says. Everyone laughs. Connected, Lazar says. Tradition is how you know who you are. And I love that. And again, I think that's history. And Lazar, who is the grandfather, I love him. He's been my favorite character. I know, I always like the old main characters. And just so much of this seems so familiar. So as we talked about, this city is like a majority Jewish city. The grandfather maybe, yeah, because Lev he went to war. So Lazar is like, look at how many Jewish newspapers there are. Look at how many synagogues we have. No one can destroy such things. He doesn't know what's coming. But yeah, it just, a lot of this reads like really familiar. And okay, on this one on page 28, I think this is so clever. And this is Mitch Albom's storytelling in this is so clever at using truth and just these, I'm like, how do you even think to write this? It's so perfect and so clever. Let me read it to y'all. Sometimes I watch people eat. I find it interesting. Food is the substance that keeps you alive. So I would think you would choose the kind that does the most good. Instead, you choose what pleases the palate. I see you at buffet restaurants, slapping on some of this, some of that, ignoring the rest, even if you know it's more healthful. I notice this because it's what you do with me. You choose a slither of the truth here, a slither there. You disregard the parts that displease you, and soon your plate is full. But just as ignoring proper food will ultimately decay your body, so will handpicking the truth eventually rot your soul. So smart. And we have this whole section about how a lie grows. And it's obviously about Hitler. They refer to him as the wolf. And I love that we all know who this is about, but it never has to say that man's name. Again, the similarities are so scary. And at page 34, I'm like, this is very choppy. These are extremely short chapters. Like this one's 1 to 3 pages. Say later on, I felt like a pinball just going all around the machine, you know? And so yeah, I said episodic, but it's hard to say episodic when it's only like 3 pages. It just felt very like I was being thrown all over the place, but that does improve, and the flow of the story does get better later on, and I had to make a tab of that. What should we be praying for? Lazar, with his eyes still closed, answered. Give thanks to the Lord for all the good in the world. And I think this is so important to always, when the terrible things are happening, be thankful for what you have, even if it's just your life. even if it's just clothes on your back, food in your belly, you have to be thankful, and you're always going to have to remember that. And this is when I say, back to the writing, I feel like a pinball. This quote, "But harmony and humankind make a short marriage. Something always seems to happen." And how true is that? Even though sometimes I feel like disasters really bring us together, but then people will find a way to ruin it and be selfish and awful. And you can really feel, so we have the Nazis like raiding this because the Jewish people can't go to school, they can't have businesses, they can't even have their pets, and everything of value gets taken from them. And so the kids were like, the parents were like, our children still need an education, so we will secretly meet at somebody's house. Like, it will be a different house every week. And the Nazis eventually find out about that and break in and raid the house. And just the, like, as you can see, there's a whole lot of dialogue. And it just feels like you can feel that adrenaline and just the chaos of it happening. And yes, here's a quote. "Sometimes it is the truths we don't speak that echo the loudest." And that's just when I read it, I was like, yeah, that's profound. I'm gonna have to think about that more. A lot of this, when we see, they are telling like Jewish people are being sent to labor camps to be slaves essentially. And a lot of this is reminding me of the Roman Empire. And I know in Italy, Mussolini, who was a dictator, he really, latched onto that. Like, if you go to the like source of the Tiber River, he put an imperial like Roman column with the eagle on top. We were talking about the labor. If you didn't know, the Colosseum was built in 8 years. Amazing that they could build a 50,000 seater arena in that time, and you know, back then. But it was built by Jewish prisoners of war. And, you know, we have Jewish people in labor camps here. And then them just going, like, we have the Nazis who are conquering. I feel like that's a strange word to use in modern times, but I mean, that's what's happening. And like Udo going and taking this house, and they're taking all the valuables out. Like, they see the nice pretty dresses they send back to Germany to their wives. They wear the suits of the Jewish people, and you know, they're taking all their valuables, taking all of their money. And when the Jewish people are being put on the trains, they're like, yeah, give us your Greek money because you're going to need Polish money when you're up there, and here's a credit. But, you know, they're not going to get to use the credit. It's crazy, 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 crazy. I'm glad that the author remembers the ages of our characters. Now, our main character of Nico is 11, and he does read kind of younger to me. I'm picturing somebody younger, but I have to remind myself, yeah, he's 11. But it's because he's so pure, he's so naive. Here's the paragraph. "Well, remember that children are still children. Even under the most dire circumstances, they will create moments to be exactly their age." And I'm just glad that they are being treated like children. I know a lot of times when people go through these awful situations, they have to grow up. They have to mature really quickly. But you have to remember, at their core, they're still kids. This is when he's so pure. He's talking to Fanny, and she's like, "I hate the Germans. Don't you hate the Germans? You're not supposed to hate people. You can hate them, it's different. You're supposed to like people." And I'm like, he's so pure, it tugs at my heart. This one, "A man to be forgiven will do anything," he said. And Lazar was telling the Sebastian and Nico that Sebastian's Nico's older brother. And what we saw on the blurb, or the description, about how, and in like the first chapter, Sebastian wants to get revenge because he's like, his brother sent them all to, you know, to hell. I wonder if that's kind of a bit of foreshadowing. This one, "So what do you learn from that? Some say it's the reason parables teach humans what raw truth cannot. Personally, I don't know what you're all so afraid of, but then it may explain what happens next." And the truth does hurt. There's so many times where I would just rather not know things because you could just get hurt. You know, very modern social media standpoint. When I would be interested in a guy or something, I'd be like, I don't want to see what he's following on Instagram. I don't want to compare myself to models and celebrities that he's following because that's just unrealistic. And so I would just rather not know. And there's so many other instances in life where it's like, ignorance is bliss, you know. But then I get to page 74 and I look up and I'm like, wow, I'm on page 74. I usually, when I read a book, only read about 70 pages a day. So I was shocked that this is just reading so fast paced. And then I was like, I always complain about books being so slow, but this is so fast and I'm feeling like a pinball. So like, what do I want? Yeah, it's just so sad to see the innocence ruined, seeing Nico realizing what he has done. And on page 77, I said the flow is definitely improved because we are now like in a linear time rather than jumping all over the place. We are just following, you know, the story as it goes chronologically. We have a few more tabs. I know I've had y'all here for 15 minutes now. I'm sorry for early waking up. And I don't know how this is all so vivid. I mean, as you can see, there's not a lot on page. These are super fast chapters, but the writing is so vivid and you're really immersed into this story. And as I told you, I got to part 2 and I said I'm excited for part 2 since part 1 was all in the description of the book. Now this is all new territory. I don't know what's going to happen. And those are my thoughts for The Little Liar. I'm sorry this clip is so long, but I had a lot to say, and that is really powerful when a book can do that. I had forgotten to turn on the light before I started filming, but I've got into over the 75% mark into the Sunshine Girls now, and I want to go through my thoughts. So I do think this is a 4.25. This has been my favorite book that I have read in 2025 so far. It's really good. And just this cover, I think this is so misleading. It seems like, oh, it'll be a cutesy beach read. Like, yeah, it probably would be fun to read on the beach, but it's so much more. It's so more impactful. I think it's just more of like a literary historical rather than a commercial historical. I don't know, but what are my issues of why is this not a 5-star book? One, I think our modern day plotline are like 2019. I think it's 2019 when they are. That plotline is, I like how we had the mother's friend telling the story to the 2 daughters. I do think that's intriguing. I think the daughters are a bit of cliches. You have the one who's like the perfect daughter, still lives in the hometown, married with 2 kids, you know, the white picket fence kind of like the Midwestern Iowa dream, whatever. And then we have, and she like, you know, would talk to the mom every day, and that's Abby. Then we have Clara, whatever. She moved to the city. She moved to Chicago. She has a girlfriend and she's very like hard-headed, fiery, and she's the edgy one, you know. And I just think those 2 characters are pretty much cliches, and that doesn't really intrigue me. They're not bringing anything new to the table like our characters in our 1967, but you know, obviously we're moving through the years in that plot line. And I don't know how, so I have less than 100 pages left of this book. I have no idea how it's going to get all of this in that amount of time. There's so much like Vietnam and marriages, deaths, failures. I don't know how all of that is going to happen in the last 100 page, or not, less than 100 pages in the book. I really have no idea how it's going to be done. But Betty Kay is like our main character here, it feels like. And I love that we are looking at this time period, and you would think it would be from like Kitty's perspective because Kitty goes to be the movie star and all that, but we're having the normal person perspective and having it told by the person who was a movie star, and just seeing a normal person in this time, because so many like the Taylor Jenkins Reid books, those are all about famous people during this time period, or we're in big cities in this time period. No, we're in small town Iowa. Like, I love that we're seeing what Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. I don't know why I'm looking over there. That book's not over there, but Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen is very similar. I do like this book more than Crossroads, but kind of similar, like being about normal people in the 70s and having, but one thing I thought was kind of strange in here, we're dealing with famous people in 1969, like late 1969, early 1970, in Hollywood, living in the hills, and there's no mention of the Manson murders. That's just kind of mind-blowing to me that was just kind of omitted. I don't know, but I do really like this, and I know once I finish, my thoughts will be more collected and all of that, because I'm just still, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, and it has me very intrigued to see where this story will go next. I am here to give the last update of the vlog for The Little Liar. I read about 70 some, or I got to 70 some percent today, which was 126 pages read. I don't know how I read that much. Literally, it's mind-blowing how fast this book moves. So there's where I am at. I should finish it tomorrow, I think, but you never know. You never know with the world of reading. But let's go through my notes. Some of these notes, since we are, you know, this far into a book, I'm not going to be able to tell y'all because of spoilers. This is not a spoiler vlog, but if you want spoilers, you can check out the Fable Book Club, which is always linked down below. A character here unwittingly playing the angel of death, and just seeing Auschwitz was so brutal to read about. Again, I didn't really feel strong emotions. I felt emotions, but I would have liked them to be stronger. And then I think, again, the character of Lazar, he is so wise. And they're praying and all that. So Sebastian's like, I don't feel like praying. We pray even when we don't feel like it. What for? For an end to this. Sebastian shook his head. It won't end until we die. Don't talk like that. It's true. And that is always, I always hear people putting bad stuff out into the universe. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. It might be what the truth is, like this next quote that I have to read to y'all. So Gisela is a woman in Hungary, and her husband, you know, went off to war and all that because that's what happens. But Gisela had already learned a hard truth of war. Grief does not take sides, and that is so true. And the truth being a hard truth that on it, not even war, but you know, it's how you can emphasize with certain people, how you can feel for certain people, and everybody deals with it. And I'm getting emotional just talking about this. So some of these thoughts will make you emotional. My main thing reading this has just been fear of where the world could turn at any moment, and knowing that history does repeat itself. And I mean, we're seeing Auschwitz, we're seeing concentration camps, and it's scary knowing that humanity could go to such an extreme. And it wasn't that long ago. Like, we know people who were alive at that time. It's just so brutal. And I mean, there are people who were in concentration camps who are still alive. I saw Holocaust Remembrance Day was back in January, and I saw videos of these women who were being interviewed, who they're, you know, in their 80s and 90s now, but were little girls in concentration camps. And it's awful, awful, awful. Yeah, just, yeah. And then we talk about belonging, about this character finally finding their place in the world. And I think that's one of the main themes in this book, is being human. And there's things that we all go through. There's things that we all desire, and belonging being one of those things, and truth being something that is something we all have to deal with. Death is something we all have to deal with. And hate, which hate is awful, but everybody hates something, someone, or whatever at some point in their life. And it's just part of being human. And I think that is one of the main themes here, is being human. This is just some stuff that I was wondering if true. So we were talking about Hungary. I don't know if I actually brought up we were talking about Hungary, but their leader, Horthy, he went to meet with the wolf, who was Hitler, and he was planning to execute the Nazi leader in cold blood. And I'm like, is that true? Was the leader of Hungary really thinking about doing that? Curious. And then this quote, the little lie had caught up to her. I'm not going to say who it's about or what that lie was, but that is a thing. Everything is a cycle. Everything is a circle. I'm thinking of Stephen Bonnet on Outlander. Terrible person, but one of my favorite characters. And the actor, he just has such charisma. But he's really fascinated by circles. And that is the thing. Everything in life has its consequences. Everything happens for a reason. There's a cycle, and everything will catch up to you eventually, even if it's at the end where you're meeting God and having to go through everything you've been through in life, having to have that conversation with him. And then this quote, We are all one fateful act from a redirected destiny, and the price we pay can be immeasurable. I struggle with that word, but this is again something I talk about all the time, like with our quote of the week, that all those little things, they all matter, because one just little difference could change your destiny. So our character Udo, he's a psycho. Straight up psycho, that's all I'm gonna say. I mean, he is a Nazi, what do we expect? And again, it's just something that I was wondering if it really happened. This famous Hungarian actress who was saving people from execution, but I don't think it really happened. Again, something for me to research, and that's great when books can do that. And I think Nico, we know he sends all these people to concentration camps, to Auschwitz, but I think he's an angel in a way, because there's so many other instances in his life of him helping others. And it's just really like, oh, it's nothing is black and white. Nothing is a straight line. It's a circle, right? And with this little section, I'm not going to say what it was, but I felt, the way I could describe it is the sadness I felt in my eyes reading this. And this is one of our concentration camp scenes. Like, you could feel the tears, I guess, building up somewhere, and I could just feel it. I didn't cry, but yeah, sadness in my eyes. Have y'all had that feeling? And then I thought maybe we would be heading to Israel in this. I'm not getting into the debate or not, but you know, just because that's how that place was formed and everything, was after the World Wars. And I was thinking that our story might go there, but now I am not so sure. And then, yes, this is something that I've been thinking reading this book. Now, I've warned that this is a story which might, in its twists and turns, make you question the coincidence of certain events. And yeah, I've definitely been thinking that. I'm like, how does all this happen? Yeah, this scene with Udo on page 173, I was like, whoa. I started feeling stuff. And then part 3, we were talking about how certain truths that are experienced universally, and again, that's what I was talking about, like hate, love, belonging. There's things that everybody goes through. And I think that's one of the main things in this book. Yes, we see how early in the book, when we talked about like tradition and everything, Lazar was like, do you know what you are? Do you know your culture? And they were like, we're Greeks. And he was like, no, you are Jewish first and then second Greek. And now after reading this, it's like, yeah, that makes so much sense, because normal Greek people weren't getting sent to concentration camps and being hunted down and killed by Nazis. It was Jewish people who were. And I was like, wow. I was realizing that 192 pages in. And oh, I did not put a tab on this page, so let me just quickly... yeah, I didn't expect Udo's story to go where it is going. And now we're in what came next, what came after the war, and I'm really excited to see where, which I read that much of it, of where that part of the story takes us. And something with seeing that after the war, and everybody deals with trauma differently. Everybody deals with life differently. And I don't think it's our place to judge people for how they handle that. I know I just said we can't judge. Some people are going to handle it poorly. Some people are going to handle it well. But when all these characters have gone through such traumatic things, I don't think it is really our place to judge how somebody handles their trauma. Then Rivka, I was wondering about her. She didn't get mentioned for a while, like probably, I'm not going to say 100 pages, maybe a little over 100 pages, but I was curious about that character, and I'm glad the author did circle back. And then I had more thoughts on why is this not a 5-star, because it seems like everybody in the book club is giving this a 5-star, and this is a great book. It is a great book. And I was like, what is my issue? And I think the writing is just, the structure of it is really just like disjointing or disorienting, when we were going between all those different, at the start of the book, going through all those different time periods, jumping around and jumping from POV to POV, it took some time to get used to. And I think because those were the early days of the book when we're just getting introduced to our story and everything. And I think that hindered my connection to the story overall, which again, this is a great book, but why is it not a 5-star? That is why I think that hindered my connection making to the story. And that is all for the notes. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's all for the notes for the day and for this vlog. If you want my final thoughts and everything, it will be on Goodreads, Fable, Storygraph, and Instagram, and you can find me on all those places down below. But let's wrap up this vlog and see what we're going to be doing next week. Next week's vlog, it will be reading one of the highly rated historical fiction books on my TBR. I don't know which one that's going to be. Maybe Good Life, Mississippi, because I don't want to get into the women while I'm still reading the Sunshine Girls, since both are dealing with like Vietnam and that era. I just don't want to read two books that are taking place in the same era that have very similar storylines. I don't want to mess with that. So we might go to Good Life, Mississippi, which only has like 8 reviews on Goodreads, and see all what that one is about. We will have to see what book I end up choosing. But every day this week, I've read over 100 pages. How many books have I hauled? We got my book of the month package, and then we got my 2 pre-orders. And that's something else I've thought about with my book buying. I am not going to count these books I buy secondhand, and because y'all know I'm only like allowed to buy 9 books a month. I didn't write that down yet for March, but that I can only buy the amount of books that I read in the previous month, and so that would be 9. And now I'm like, when I go to like Goodwill and all, there are deals you can't pass up. At my local Goodwill, all of the books are less than $2. They're all, you know, $1.50, $1.25, whatever. I mean, that's amazing. I am not going to count those towards that book buying. The 9 books I can buy, those are buying things from the bookstore, Amazon, sorry, book of the month, you know, books I'm buying firsthand where I'm the first person to own that book. You know, why do we do these bands? It's not really a book buying band, but you know, I don't know. It's probably people make people feel bad online. Really, for me, it's shelf space. But I don't care anymore. I don't care. And that is how I'm going to end this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it all the way through, leave a green emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!